Welcome to another Azure Centric Podcast on our weekly updates show. My name is Marcos Nogueira and I'm your host as usual. And as usual, to not being different on any other presentation for our podcast, we have Andrew Lowes. Hello, Andrew. How are you doing today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you very much for having me. How are you doing?
I'm fantastic. It's finally the spring come. We had a little bit of snow, just a tiny bit like our friends in Europe that snows in April. So we had to do it as well because we live in Canada, right? But right now it's double digits. It's very sunny outside. We should do one day recording this outside just for the fun of it. It's going to be
Oh, I would
a
love that.
challenge, it,
Yeah.
but that's okay. I think we
Yeah,
can we
we'll
can
have
do
some
it.
technical challenges. We could do an episode from my garage.
Yes, Azure Garage in this case.
Oh, Azure Garage. Oh, I like it. Yes.
Yeah,
Special edition of Azure Garage.
exactly. But yeah, it's been. We have to say regarding Azure, it's been a quite week. We have to
Yeah.
say it, right?
Yeah, it was a good week. It was very stable, which was nice.
Yes,
So we do need to build some stability,
absolutely.
kind of as all of these things come up and down with the usual flux. But it was a bit quiet for announcements, and when we were going over them, we actually didn't cut just one, I think, right?
Yeah, it was a dev one that we
Yeah, I
cut.
was going to say we didn't cut many, but
No,
I was
just one.
thinking, well, we did. We cut one. It was just very, very few. It was
We
only
have a
one.
theme with this
Yeah,
this
there's
this
a new
episode.
theme this week.
Yes, as usual. This theme is about the public preview with a twist that we will mention that I'm not going to reveal right now. You have to listen in this case, but I have some news. My
Oh,
button is back. Look at this.
hey!
So please don't forget to subscribe. Thank you very much for your support. We were comment that we've been so blessed
Mm,
by everyone with this type of format that now we're doing this introduction to just to try to see if that is interesting or not to you guys, and then we jump into the updates. But the feedback has been tremendous. It's been out of my. I don't have
yeah,
words.
just incredible
Incredible,
comments
right?
on the Azure Centric videos. And, just for everybody watching or listening, wherever you are, thank you.
Thank you.
We both read through the comments. Marcos is much better than I am with commenting. I have ADD brain, so I read them. I have some good chuckles, and I think, oh my goodness, I can't
Yeah,
believe
yeah.
these people actually listen to us chat for what we always refer to as our 15-minute weekly call.
Yes, 15 minutes that sometimes he went to, I think the minimum was 40 something minutes on this
Yeah,
show,
yeah.
and the maximum was almost like 2 hours.
Yeah,
Uh,
there was one or
oh
two
my,
that
yeah,
might be a bit on the long side. They were more
just a
those
bit.
weeks where we had some build up to Ignite, I think,
Yes,
where
yes,
there was a
absolutely.
lot of announcements and a lot of them had really big information chunks in them. But what do you think? Are you ready to kind of dive into the
Yes,
deep end of the public previews?
absolutely. Let's roll the intro, and then we'll come back to the first in this case update. So welcome back. Now let's jump into the first update. The first update, it's a public preview because we said that was the theme for this week, and it's public preview of announcing platform support, migration of Azure Cloud Services Classic to Azure Resource Manager. So
Hmm.
we mentioned this. I was double checking my notes. we mentioned this when was in development, because this was the Azure Cloud Services that we mentioned, right? That was on extended support, and
Yes.
it was moving to Azure Resource Manager. So if you are one of those listeners that you just come with us almost since the beginning, this is not a new for you. If you are the one that it's just come to this podcast, this show, welcome in this case. But this is already start talking, so I think it's worthwhile to just coming and going and basically uh, recap a little bit what is Azure Cloud Services. What do you think?
Yeah, I think that would be good. I'd love to hear a little bit on you from it. You think of things in a much deeper way sometimes, especially with a lot of these very core services.
Yeah.
You have a different perspective, which is one of the things that we do well. It's why we work so well as a team, because we really balance each other with that kind of thing. So I think of the Azure Cloud Services as like the original deployment method. The kind of It's a bit of a lighter touch and less modular. Moving towards Resource Manager, the ARM templates, it's a little bit, well, it's a lot more extensible, but it's a little bit more flexible and modular. And we can take chunks of that JSON and move it around a bit that
Yes.
we didn't have that full flexibility to do within the classic model. That's how I see it.
Absolutely. And it's correct, because the part of moving this to ARM, right? So when you're doing the Azure Cloud Services, and now you are what is called now the Cloud Services Extended Support, that is the new ARM, you are adding some capabilities that you have on ARM already. So the RBAC, the role-based access control, is one of them. The very good friends of ours, that is the tags, the policies, and the support of doing this as a template. That you could not have it in this case on the classic version of the Azure Cloud Services, right? And now migrating this, and I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, is one of the last services on the what I used to call the version 1 of Azure, the
Yep.
ASM, right? Is still one of the last services that they are migrating, so we can almost throw away the version 1 of in this case of the Azure, and be able to going fully on the version 2, that is the ARM version, the Azure Resource Manager.
Yeah, I think you're right. If this isn't the last, then it's definitely only a handful left for
Absolutely.
services. Yeah,
Absolutely.
but this is a really big step forward, and
Yeah.
having this move to public preview is really good.
Yeah.
It means we're just a couple steps away from GA, which means there's been a lot of work going on in the background for these things.
Yeah. And this announcement, what they are doing is the availability of the migration tool to migrate from that Azure Cloud Services, the classic, to the new one. So if you have VMs that they are still running on the classic, so under the ASM, this tool now utilizes exactly the same experience that you have with APIs that you have when you migrating those virtual machines from classic to ARM. It uses exactly the same APIs. So this is really good, because if you already have those templates or those process already in place, you don't need to change much to moving to migrate your Azure Cloud Services Classic to the Azure Cloud Service Extended Support. I know that is a little bit of mouthful, but basically it's migrating from ASM to ARM. That's way more simple, but they have to come with a name, right?
This is true. Yeah, it has to have a
Yeah.
name of some flavor.
Yeah, absolutely. Although what I would like to say is to just calm some of the arts that I already feeling that they will tell us is, okay, but what about the migration? I have this migration on the classic, and I want to move to the extended support. Do I have downtime? Using the tool, one of the migration benefits, okay, is it's no downtime migration. So
Correct.
that is awesome. The other huge benefit for me is the fully orchestrated that you have on a migration tool. So you're moving the platform, you're moving the entire deployment and all the associated resources to ARM. So it's pretty cool what they are doing. They are really facilitating you. Now I say that it's still in public preview, so please do not move your production environment yet, but get ready, okay?
Yeah.
Because when this became GA, there is no excuse, and I almost sure that they will put like a deadline for you to move it, right?
Yeah, these almost always come with those deadlines, right? Sometimes it's
Absolutely.
6 months, sometimes it's a year, but we can't take that for granted. We have to prepare.
Yeah.
So if you're running classic resources, and a lot of enterprises are, they're running classic VMs and things like that still. So get into your dev test, get into whatever subscription you need, and deploy some classic resources, or use your existing testing classic resources, and try out the migration tool.
Yeah.
And like you were saying, one of the benefits to the migration tool is that they've really tried to automate as much as they can. So it's a bit of, dare I use the phrase, light touch.
Yeah.
For it. But that's really what they're going for, right? They want to make it easy for us to use the migration tool.
Yeah.
And so it really shows, because it's easier to
Yes.
use than some older stuff, right?
Absolutely. And this update they're talking about is related to the migration tool. Okay?
Yeah.
Because the update of the new Azure Cloud Service deployment model is in GA. So the platform, in this case, the new Azure Cloud Service model, is now in GA. The tool to migrate is still in preview.
Correct.
Okay. So they already announced this. They already announced on the same day that they build a tool that is in preview, but the end result is already in GA. So the new Azure Cloud Services deployment model, it's now in GA. So this allows you, okay, to just starting moving or gain the access to the new capabilities that you didn't have on the classic version. Okay, so such as I mentioned again, the RBAC, the tags, the policies, the private link support, that is huge.
That's huge.
That's huge. And even for me, it's even bigger, the deployment templates.
So can I go on a brief tangent about private
Absolutely.
links just for a minute? Because we've both worked at a lot of different companies over, let's say, the last couple of years.
Yeah.
And we've had the privilege of being able to go in and assess their environments. And quite often, even on the projects that you and I have shared the workloads on, we've seen that companies don't always take advantage of the private links in the way that they could be. They'll use other means like NSGs, or even third-party firewalls and routing and route tables, and like they make things more complex than it has to be, is what I'm really just trying to say very plainly. And if you're not using, or you have limited use of private links and private endpoints in your environments, take advantage of that and go in and explore it, use it. It's easy. First of all, it's very easy, but these things keep everything internal to your tenant and your subscriptions.
Exactly.
And that's really important for data privacy and security and all kinds of things surrounding that model, right? So I just want to encourage all of our viewers and listeners to really go in and explore private links, private endpoints. Take a look at how that can be applied in your environment. Check it out in your testing subscription, and just explore it. It's really worth doing on a Saturday afternoon or something, just to learn a bit more about it and explore.
Yeah.
So thank you for letting me go off
You're very welcome. I want to add to that, because it's a very good point on the misuse of private links, or in this case, the absence of use of private links. Let's call it this way. Is because of that. A lot of the services, they have this external resolution. For example, storage accounts. For example, Azure SQL. For example, and so on. I could be here the entire day just calling out all of those services, right?
You really could. There's a lot of
There's
services.
a lot of service. But the absence of using this is the matter of, instead of having that name, okay, that theoretically resolves to a public IP, and now you have to open ports, like you mentioned. You have to talk about all of the security of getting even outside, and get in some cases you are even incurring on some extra costs, because right now I'm just thinking about egress, because if you're
You
going
betcha.
outside of the region, even if to go to get back again to the same service on the same region, you are going outside of the region no matter
That's right,
what.
because when you use public IPs
Yes.
to access your internal information and you don't realize it sometimes,
Yeah.
that means data egress.
Yeah,
Right there.
absolutely. And a lot of those people doesn't know, because, oh, I felt it's too complex. It isn't.
Well, to be fair, it did used to be a little bit more complex, but that was part of my
But it
kind of
was.
tangent, right?
But I
Was
have to say
because now
that
it's easier.
I have to say that wasn't when we use the service link.
Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
When they come with this private link, okay. In this case, it's I know that similarity of the name confused a lot, and Microsoft in this case, they still have a long run to create a little bit more easy understanding names, and not such a confusing like that. It's one of the examples, but
Yeah, we'll talk about that one in another article, right?
absolutely. but those are different, right? The part of going there on the private links and be able to use that and be able to configure that, you don't need to go outside. You are reducing your security, because now you don't need to open firewall ports, even if it's outbound and then inbound or whatever it is to come to you.
That's right.
uh,
Your internal SOC is going to love you for learning more about this, because
Absolutely.
it means they have to work less to secure things.
Absolutely. But yeah, it's very interesting, right? That part. And again, we deviated one more time from the
What?
from the
No, that doesn't
update.
sound right.
But I think you that you are listening or viewing, you already know that we deviate a lot, and I think that's what makes this show so interesting, because we extend our point of view or something like to those updates, right?
It's
To-
true. Yes. Yep.
Going to the next one, and this is one of the coolest, and we were mentioning this on the pre-recording, was like the public preview of Start VM on Connect feature for Windows Virtual Desktop.
Yeah. So I admit this was one that caught my attention midweek when it was released. And I got excited, and I did go in and have a bit of a poke at this one. So I'm starting to explore more about Windows Virtual Desktop, the WVD product from Azure, like within Azure. And not that I want to be a virtualization expert. As you know, I find anything other than good old-fashioned terminal services terribly confusing.
Yeah.
But WVD is really what's going to help propel ease of use for end users and administrators working remotely over the next little while. So, as we continue to battle with having to work outside of the office, and there's all these things going on, we have, millions of people trying to find ways to connect better and do things quicker. So the fact that we can now, to be fair, there's some kind of rules with this, and we'll kind of cover that in a minute or two here. But the really cool thing about this is we don't have to have the whole pool spun up. It can not just based on kind of that governance and the policies load to say, okay, Andrew said that the servers are going to be configured so when 20 people are logged on to a VM, it spins up the next one for number 21 that logs in for a virtual desktop. That might be true, but now this is starting the VM when they connect to it. This is a little bit different. So it's not like the pool configuration, it's the VM configuration.
Yes.
So this is freaking awesome because it means we can have our resources powered down. And it's interesting because this ties in for some work I was doing with a client recently where they took the whole power on, power off automation model and turned it on its head and said, Andrew, what if the default state is off? And what can we do about this? Like, how can we make a model like that work? And it really made me think, you know what? That's an interesting question. And we came up with some solutions for it. And we had to use a lot of creativity. And let me tell you, this is an absolute blessing.
It is.
That it's coming out.
It is.
I cannot wait for this to go GA. Like it won't happen soon enough.
I know, and I'm in the middle of for example, that's interesting part that I was mentioned this on one of the workshops. I'm in the middle of one of the WVD projects that I'm doing right now, and the interesting part is this, right? Although when I was presenting this new feature to them today, for example, there are some catches that they are not on this, or at least on the documentation, but it's interesting. Okay, so first of all, there are some requirements and limitations on this public preview. First, you need to be with the latest version of the Windows client. That is, in this case, the 1.2748 or later. So it only works on that. That is the first catch. And then it only works either with that version or with the web client. Okay. It doesn't work on anything else. But if you're starting thinking about this, is right now, if you have a multi-session pool, okay, this is great, for example, for dedicated pools. So means that you have a pool for one user, one desktop. Okay. Usually you're doing that for heavy users, something like that, when you need a little bit more like graphic interface, not graphic interface, like the GPU enables when you have those type of users. Although if you have a multi-session pool, okay, you have two ways to deploy the pool. You have what's called the breadth and what's called the depth. So the difference is, for example, if you have a host pool of 10 servers, the breadth, what it does is, it will, and you define that you have, for example, a limit of 10 users per host, in this case, on a multi-session. The breadth, what it does is, it starts to fill up that server and only moves to the next one when the 11 come, right? And it moves to the other one when the 21st one come, and so on and so forth, right? So it's filling horizontal, no, it's filling vertically instead of horizontal. The breadth, you starting to have the first one on the first host, the second user, a second session on a second host, and everything else. So this, it's awesome okay, when it is, to be very honest, in my honest opinion, or it's more effective when you have depth instead of breadth. Because if you have 10 host pools, for example, or 10 hosts on that pool, and you have 100 users, on the first 10, you already have all the VMs on. Okay? So the savings there is not that great. It is still great because when the last guy, okay, theoretically, and if you are not using Nerdio as well, I have to say, right, that you can balance all of those sessions and all of those rules of auto scaling up or auto scaling down, right?
Yeah.
If you don't have that, then you could ending with the VM always on because the last guy is still on that host doing that, right? Although if you're doing on the depth, if you compare both of them, and I know that I'm going a little bit more in depth in
Well,
it.
it's a little bit deep, but I think it's good because
Yeah,
we need to understand how we can take advantage of
of
these
this, yes,
previews, and in particular when we're talking about the power on, like start the VM when we connect. You're really laying a good foundation for us on this.
absolutely. And I was talking on that, and the interesting part is, I know that this was because I did search it and I did see it, and I was talking and I was saying to them, "Oh, this is amazing," and then I say, "It's amazing, it is," but you have to think how you're going to use this on the best way. So we were, and this time we just changed it, the design from example the breadth to the depth to just take advantage of this when this became GA, for example.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
those
yeah.
little
As a
details,
reminder, it is public
it
preview
is
right
public
now. Yeah.
preview, of course. So don't deploy these in production, right? But it's interesting because those little details can change completely the design to save costs or to change a little bit the driver that in this case was, okay, I like this, let's use this functionality out of the box. It's a native functionality, we should do
That's
it.
right.
Doesn't increase any cost, doesn't do anything. Although Nerdio already does that, right? But it's very nice to have this
Well, there's
feature
some
available.
specific use cases for it, I
Yes.
think, right? So if it fits for the way someone has designed their desktop pool, then this is going to be really good. It's going to help them to save some money.
Absolutely.
But
Absolutely.
if you, like you say, if you're using the depth and you're scaling up, and then when it's full, then you go to the next one, you've already got those features baked in. It's already there. You don't have to take advantage of this. This won't impact the way that operates with the automatic scaling.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. But it's interesting, right? Like our small feature like this with such an importance, and it will a huge impact for organizations, right? That now they can
absolutely.
they can save tons of money.
Yeah,
Can change the design or can change the future of the design so easily, right? And that's the part that I want
absolutely.
just to
So
add.
the thing that always comes to my mind was I would you'll remember this. So I'm gonna try and omit some detail here. But this is so, folks, this is always the challenging part for us
Yes.
when we try to tell a good detailed story that's helpful, but we can't talk about clients and things that we've worked with. So we have to omit some detail, but not too much, but enough. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Friday problems, right?
Exactly. First world problems.
So, yeah, first world problems, right? Yeah. So, I remember working through some design and redesign of virtualization desktops
Yeah.
for a client, let's say. And when we were thinking about the design, we had to think like, okay, so they're going to be using like CAD programs They're going to have huge files, big PDFs, big spreadsheets. They're going to have not massive, but let's say kind of midstream database sizes that they want to load locally within the session in the virtual desktop. So I'm saying like 3 to 800 megabytes of like a database, for example, spreadsheets up to 200 or 300 megs, that kind of thing. So some pretty heavy processing requirements for virtual desktops. And one of the things that I struggled with was, well, how do you build pools that have different kinds of beefiness, right? So I have users in finance that are going to really use those Excel spreadsheets. So they need really more memory, but you're going to have then AutoCAD people, perhaps. They might use more processor and more memory. And then you're going to have data people, and they're going to need just a lot of processing again. So once it's loaded, it's not so bad. And really, when you think about anything under 1 gig for RAM allocation, it's not too bad. And I see that I've been overseas again to the head shrinker. So, my goodness. So that's okay. But one of the things that struck me and struck a chord with me with the Start VM on Connect was, if we build out kind of beefier hosts to take care of things like users that have specific use case requirements like this, then this is a really great case for being able to kind of give them those heavier programs, but still in a virtual environment. So we don't have to distribute them out on laptops, say, and mail the laptops out to users while we're all working remote. So I really did love some of the features with this. If folks at home, if you could see what I'm seeing right now, you would
they cannot see
I'm
that.
chuckling. Oh, Marco, sometimes you just get me going. That's so funny. And just for the record, my forehead is not that big.
Keep going, my
so
friend, keep
one
going.
of the things that I love about our Friday evenings, as we always close out and say it's the highlight of our week. So this, folks, really, truly, honestly, it is the highlight of my week, because not only do we get to sit and talk about these little features and how they kind of map out, and sometimes these little things are a little bigger than they seem, right? Like WVD all of a sudden is a little bit bigger. And it's informal, and that's what I love. So I really am just trying to say thank you, Marcos, because I really do like this time. And this is a conversation that we have anyways while we're chatting. And it's nice that we can kind of record this and share with everybody, and all of the extra work that you do behind the scenes on the fly with these things. It's really very much appreciated. So thank you.
You're very welcome, my friend.
So that said, I think I will take us perhaps into the transition here for our next article. So I'm going to talk a little bit. Public preview for Azure Purview is now available in Central India region. This is a really cool thing, right? So we've talked before a little bit about Azure Purview and how data governance is really the driving kind of force that we have to reckon with now. You're killing me, buddy.
I don't know, man. It's like, I have to say here, if you are listening, you have to go to the YouTube channel. And I apologize for doing this.
It's so worth it this week.
Because it's so worth it. I don't know. I'm not touching the computer. I'm not doing anything. And we always record these on Streamlabs OBS. And this week, I don't know what is going on.
No, I've been head shrunk again.
This must be
let's
be the
Skype.
Skype.
Say it like this, Marcos. Let's say it like this. So if in our listening audience we have a Streamlabs OBS expert,
Yes,
for the love of God, reach out to us.
Yes, I have to ask for help, because I'm not touching anything. I'm raising my hands, okay, and suddenly it's only happened with in this case Andrew. I don't know if it's my internet connection or if it's
Oh, I
the
don't know what
Skype,
it is. Yeah.
because Andrew is connecting to us through Skype, right? And if it's the NDI of the Skype that is doing that, and it's messing around with all the configuration.
Yeah,
Probably
so
already saw
maybe there's
this.
a better way to do
Yeah,
this, right?
absolutely.
So we've modeled our setup off of kind of a well-known article from some Microsoft folks that publish and use Streamlabs to produce their really fancy-looking videos,
Yes.
especially out of Channel 9 and stuff like that, right? So
Yeah.
there's an old article from like I say old, like maybe 3 years old, that talks about how to set up OBS for this kind of thing. So the new iteration that's more friendly is Streamlabs. And as you can see, it's being very friendly
And
this evening.
theoretically, this tool is for streaming. So we are just recording. We are not streaming on my computer. And I see over here that I'm not reaching even 50% of my CPU. And we having all of these
You know what
issues.
really cracks me up about this though? This makes me feel like a super old man with a VCR that's flashing 12 and I don't know how to fix it.
Yeah, yeah. Don't tell me that, but yeah, let's move on. Public
Yes, let's
preview
get rid of this
of
thing. So,
Azure
yes,
Purview.
Azure Purview. So, tell us a little bit about what you think with Azure Purview, because I mean, we're starting to see kind of how this is proliferating out to all the different regions now.
Yeah.
So, Central India this week now is getting it in public preview. I bet you next week or the week after it'll go GA in Central India region, and we'll see a couple other regions hit preview.
Absolutely.
Why is Purview important for us? What do we need to do with it? What does it help with?
So Azure Purview, reading and using your expression, reading from direct from the mouth horse or horse mouth, right?
Get the horse's mouth, straight from the horse's mouth.
Is Azure Purview is a unified data governance service that helps you manage and govern your on-premise, multi-cloud, and software as a service data. So easy to create an holistic, up-to-date map of your data landscape with automated data discovery, sensitive data classification, and end-to-end data lineage. So empowers data consumers to find valuable, trustworthy data. So in other words, it's a service that's looking for your data in a holistic way, wherever your data is, if it's on-prem, if it's on Azure or on a different cloud, or even if it's in a SaaS, okay, and basically maps everything to just see if you have sensitive, see if you have data classification, what data classification do you have, to just discover what type of data do you have. So it's a pretty cool service. I have to say that I did play around on my lab, and it was pretty cool. I'm really looking forward to a project that I could implement this way deeper, but I see a lot of valuable on a service like this. Although it's funny and it's a mouthful that you're doing public preview of Azure Purview.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, so this is what we were talking about earlier, where certain companies that might be running Azure have a little bit more work to do when it comes to names that roll right off the tongue. And who knows, maybe it's on purpose so that we mention it in that way and give them a bit more attention. Seriously, folks, come subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's a blast.
It's a blast from.
Oh, God bless you, Marcos. Oh my goodness. Okay, I will move us forwards while the maestro conducts the mice in the machine here for us.
It's incredible.
So, coming up next, we've got Azure Automation is now available in South India. So, we've seen Azure Automation coming out in many regions, kind of in the last, I want to say, month or so, I think. We've really seen it kind of moving along very quickly. And I think that this is really cool because, I mean, as you know, we use Azure Automation to power what drives our article collection for this podcast, even. We use automation, runbooks, and all those things through Azure Automation for a lot of power on and power off scheduling. We've talked about that this episode as well. We also use automation to drive a lot of schedules for reports and kind of keeping things communicated well with our admin teams and managers for different reporting, especially cost and finance reporting in Azure. So I use automation a lot for a lot of things. So the fact that I've been kind of taking that a bit for granted, I think, in North America, to be honest with you, it's fantastic for me because now that it's rolling out worldwide, for example, lately I've been working with some overseas teams in India, and it's amazing because a lot of times they have to create resources in testing tenants in US and Canada to get the full set of features that we kind of just take for granted here. And now with automation coming to South India, this is really good. So we're starting to see a lot of growth, a lot of equalization of all of the features and services within Azure available worldwide, right? So there's been a lot of worldwide commitment from Microsoft, and this is really delivery, I guess. This is really just delivery of that, right?
Absolutely, it is, and it's great to see that although they announce some for this year, some new zones in this case of India, and they are growing on that matter in this case, and now that Azure Automation is growing, and we have to say that is one of the normal ones is this, and is this the Azure the other one that is very popular on our show is the log analytics and Azure
Yeah,
Monitor as well. So they
yeah.
are competing each other for to see who is the most that appears on most on our show. That's completely true. Moving on to the next one, and this is directly to the heart of my good friends. Azure Active Directory B2C, so business to consumer in
hmm
Australia is available in public preview.
Yeah, so clearly, I kind of love Azure Active Directory. Um,
Yeah.
once I warmed up to cloud authentication and really had the opportunity to gain insights and understanding of the whole security model,
Hmm.
it really just clicked. So once in a while, I think in our lives, we get one of those things like it just clicks and it just feels kind of natural, like you put it into fourth or fifth gear and start cruising along. That is Azure Active Directory, and B2C is really freaking awesome because it allows businesses to use Azure AD to deal with consumer side accounts. You can do some really cool third party integrating with Google accounts, with Facebook accounts, all those things, and allow customers to log in and authenticate to your systems using those other third party accounts.
Yeah.
So when you go into a website and you see, yeah, log in here, click on the Facebook thing, click on the Google thing. I mean, I always click on the Microsoft account thing, but
Even
that
Microsoft
one
account
is
is a B2C, right? So
it is
because the
because
Microsoft account
if you're
is
using your
consumer.
personal account,
Yeah,
yeah, because you would use like your Hotmail address or your
exactly.
Outlook.com address, and I guess that shows my age. I still have a Hotmail
Oh
address.
yeah, and my Hotmail, just to see of my age, used to be Rocket Mail.
Oh, look at this.
See, so my is about 30 years, something like that.
See, my Elton John story is different because do you remember the last time we bumped into each other in Vancouver was the same week as an Elton John concert,
Yeah,
and it was impossible to get a good hotel anywhere.
exactly. It was. It was.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, yeah. Before I get off on problem parking in downtown Vancouver, let's move along.
Exactly. Let's move along with this, but it's great that to see that starting of April 9, or started in April 9. They, in this case in Australia, they will have this available for them to start doing. And one of the things that I like about this B2C is you can develop your application, right? And you don't need
Mhm.
to give them internal. And it was always a kind of a concern how you can grant different profiles or different roles and different everything. And you always look for, do they need to register with my company, what I'm going to do with that data, what I'm not going to do with that data. So it takes a lot of load and and
It
and
does.
complexity, and even regular compliance, right? Because that
That's
data, it
right.
doesn't live with you. You are just receiving a
That's
token,
correct.
right? You are just
Yep.
receiving that, and now you can go in with authentication. So
Oh, it's a beautiful,
it's a
yeah.
beautiful.
SAML tokens really made authentication very elegant, right? And super secure as well. So this is a really safe way to do authentication for different business systems that you may need to have interfacing directly to your consumers. And one of the things I think is worth, like, I want to just do an honorable mention of the low code slash no code Power Apps,
Yeah.
right? So Power Apps allows you to also integrate whatever you're building with B2C. So you can integrate Azure Active Directory. You can integrate your business tenant, the B2B, and the B2C. So if you are working on something or you have something on your horizon for a project like that, come and explore this. Check out the links. Marcos is absolutely amazing. Puts the links for all of these updates into the YouTube. What do we call that? The YouTube comments article?
Now is
I'm
the,
not
the
sure
the
what
description.
description.
Yeah,
Thank you. The
description of
word
the video. But
B2C, no problem. Simple words like
yeah.
description. Whew.
And but you find on any post that you see on this channel, and on the podcast, you find all of those links that you we are talking about regarding that. Yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah. So it's really amazing technology. I love how Azure AD is so
it is.
easy
It
to
is
integrate with other tools and really bring things to life
absolutely.
and make it's so easy. I love it.
It is. The next update is the last one. So it's the last but not the least, as the always the joke, right? It's a little bit a different.
It's kind of a heavy hitter
It
though, right?
is. It's a public preview of Azure announcing, in this case, the Azure STIG solution templates to accelerate compliance for the Department of Defense. So STIG
Yeah. So when
is Security Technical Implementation Guide. So is nothing more than there are templates of this. I don't know if it's an institution or if it's an organization that basically creates templates, okay, to accelerate your process to achieve what's called the Defense Information System Agency DISA compliance. So if you have projects with the DoD, okay, STIG is a Department of Defense cybersecurity methodology to standardize security configurations on your computer operating system and other softwares and hardware. So it's very similar
yeah,
to the CIS.
exactly right. So if you're working or a company that you're associated with is working with defense contracts in the United States Department of Defense, the DoD, then this is one way you can use to help accelerate your cybersecurity preparedness, really, right?
Exactly.
And you can apply this to Windows and Linux VMs in Azure.
Yes.
And it's preview, so we should say test this in your whatever tenant, non-prod. But this is a way that is going to be used to help accelerate that security journey and make it a little easier to meet all of these very strict DoD requirements, right? So we know that the government tenants are separate physically from the public cloud tenants. But we also know that DoD is even further separated, right? So Azure has the highest level of achievement for DoD security for data centers. It's absolutely amazing. So this is really good stuff coming out. And this is going to filter down. I think it's going to filter down into other types of security templates. I think that this model will be adapted by other models.
It is, and the good thing about this is not only to adapt in this case for the Azure government in this case subscriptions, or the Azure government in this case plans on all of that. This you can apply to the Azure commercial. So if your organization have some kind of contracts with all of that, Azure government is built for, in this case, to entities that they are related to the government. So usually they need to be government. So even public ones, it's not the government. They are public.
So I just want and I just want to point out that if you look at the bottom of the web browser object, you'll notice that it says Azure Government Secret coming soon. So though this is being developed for DoD compliance, which is typically secret, maybe it's so secret they just can't announce it.
I can see that.
I couldn't resist. I apologize to the person who worked so hard on this, and we appreciate your work. I could not resist. I had to bite.
Yes, it's so secret that it's coming soon, but they don't tell when.
There's actually, I was just looking because I wanted to formally apologize to somebody with a name. There's no name on this article.
But there is a lot of things around this, because if you are a commercial and you have a contract with DoD, there is a lot of things that you need to do it. There is one specific program that's called the FedRAMP program that allows you to just kind of do it this express way to do this. And these STIG templates, it will help you achieve that. The good thing that you mentioned here is the public preview is, if you ever implemented the CIS, right? And you know that they have level 1 and level 2. When you're going, for example, on your domain controllers, and you just lock down everything, and now they cannot even talk to each other, something like that.
Oh, yeah. It's very
strict. If you think that was close, try this one. But again, this is in public preview.
So if people are used to working in like PCI DSS or something like that, and you're sitting Saturday afternoon enjoying a beverage of your choice, got your feet up, and you're thinking to yourself, man, that was really tough to do that configuration and testing. Try STIG.
Exactly.
DoD requirements are, what do we say? Off the hook. Yeah. They're really, really hard.
If you have insomnia, this is a good way to go. Oh my God! True. We need to close this.
Granular and detailed, right? So there is a lot of very particular work that goes into the DoD requirements, and I think this is going to help to take some of that kind of put you to sleep parts out of it, and let you apply the template and do that. But
Absolutely.
again, please, if you love the environment and your users that you work with, do not apply a STIG template in
Yeah.
prod. Uh, Nothing is going to talk to anything unless you put explicit rules in to allow
Yeah.
it. So you're going to need to do this in your testing
Yeah.
tenant and really deeply understand what happens.
Absolutely.
So I would recommend, like, a good scenario would be add in SQL databases, private endpoints for your data, simulate either very close copies of NSGs, different types of servers. If you're using third-party firewalls for virtual appliances, add those in so you understand what happens with them. Be detailed in your testing with compliance templates, because they're quite strict, and they are detail oriented.
Absolutely.
So it's intended for you to really deeply test and understand.
Exactly.
So yeah, I'll stop ranting about security stuff here.
That's okay, my friend. We already finished our podcast, so as you guys already see from Andrew's window, we are recording this on a daylight. That's why we have so much fun, and I think
As we move into
yeah,
summer, there's going to be, I think, some hijinks, like
completely
garage
garage
episodes and
episodes.
things. You never
You
know.
never know. But what I want to say is thank you. Please do not forget to subscribe. And now we have our button back again. Don't forget to
It looks so
subscribe.
good. I want to say that. You do a good job on
Thank
that.
you. It was a challenge just to do it this again. I don't know why I just lost the button. But don't forget to subscribe. Give us some love. We love you giving our love in back in this case. We are here for
Yeah,
you.
all those comments and likes, just absolutely
Amazing.
amazing this
Amazing.
last like
Absolutely.
few months. It's the response from our listeners has been amazing.
It's been, I have to say. But so once again, thank you. We come to the end. Thank you, Andrew, for being here again, once again. And I hope I
Thank
can
you
see
so
you
much.
next week. So have a great week and bye.